Shall I start?
Yes, please.
So very good morning, everyone. I am CA Deepikais, Chartered Accountant from Chennai. And I'm currently working with an industry, heading the indirect taxation team. And I'm also a faculty for CA, CMA, CS students, as well as I undertake corporate trainings and write articles. So with this, we'll start with the session. So recently on 26th December, we got a notification like there are so many amendments with regard to registrations, with regard to return, input tax credit. So we'll go through in detail. The key highlights of the notification 26/2022, central tax dated 26 December 2022. The first part is with regard to registration. Now earlier, what happened was we used to register with a mobile number and email address of our company, be it sole proprietorship, the proprietor's numbers or the email ID will be given. And if it is partnership, the partner's number will be given. And in case of company, the company secretaries or the CFO, the mobile number or email address. So whatever mobile number or email address which we used to give in the GST portal and register, to that mobile number and email address only the OTP was coming. But the proposed as per notification 26/2022 is OTP will be sent to the mobile number and email address which is linked to the PAN. So we all know GST registration cannot happen without a PAN number. So PAN will be validated through CBDT. And OTP will be sent to the email address and mobile number which is linked to that PAN. Suppose for a company, if you have given company secretaries PAN number, through that only you have taken the registration. Sorry, the company's PAN. The company's PAN, through that you have taken a registration. So whatever mobile number or email address is linked to that company's PAN, the company secretaries or the CFOs, to that number only the OTP will go and not to the number which you have used for registering the GST, for taking GST registration. Point number 1. Point number 2. Application for registration is complete only when Aadhaar authentication is completed. So we all know this as per section 25, subsection 6. We have to undergo Aadhaar authentication. 6C, 6D, all is there. We have to undergo Aadhaar authentication. So when we open the portal, we get a warning like you have to do Aadhaar authentication. But we are able to proceed with the transaction even without Aadhaar authentication. But now it is very much necessary and it is mandatory that we have to complete the Aadhaar authentication. And whoever is applying for new registration, the registration will get completed and they'll get the acknowledgement only when they complete the Aadhaar authentication. And in case of application for registration will be approved only after physical verification of the premises. So only after physical verification, if there are even after the Aadhaar authentication, if the person is identified on the common portal based on the risk parameters and data analysis for carrying out physical verification, then the physical verification of the business premises will be carried out. Only then the registration will be granted. So currently this is operational for this physical verification. This is operational only for Gujarat, the state of Gujarat. So for the state of Gujarat, currently it is proposed. Soon for every state it will be coming. So this is with regard to OTP Aadhaar authentication. Next, point number 4 is a person who is required to deduct tax at source or collect tax at source. So TDS as per section 51. So the recipients, the government agency, central government, state government, cooperative society, public sector undertakings. So they will have to undergo this registration for tax deductor, TDS. They will have to deduct TDS at the rate of 1% CGST, 1% SGST in case the value under the contract exceeds rupees 2.5 lakhs. So for that, they have to compulsorily register themselves as a tax deductor. And what is tax collected at source? TCS. Whenever you supply any goods or services through an e-commerce operator, then the e-commerce operator will have to collect tax collected at source, TCS, at 1%, 0.5% CGST and 0.5% SGST. So that has to be deducted. So why it is called tax at source, collected at source, even though they are deducting, is because on the amount collected, they are going to deduct the taxes, and hence it is called as tax collected at source. So these persons, whenever they have to take a compulsory registrations, even though they have registered themselves as a taxpayer, separately they have to take a registration for tax deductor or tax collector. Now, when they have taken the registration, earlier what happened was only the proper officer was allowed to cancel the registration. If in case the proper officer feels that no longer the registration is required, the registration for the tax deductor or taxpayer is required, then he can cancel the registration. The tax deductor or the tax collector was not allowed to cancel the registration. Now, in the proposed scheme, here the registered person who's registered as a tax deductor or tax collector, they can also request for cancellation of registration. So this is what with regard to registration. So 4 points. Point number 1, OTP will be sent to the mobile number and email address which is linked to the PAN, and not to the mobile number and email address which is registered with the portal, GST portal. Point number 2, GST will be registration under GST will be complete only when other authentication is complete, and even if the other authentication is completed, it will be approved only after physical verification of the premises. Suppose if it is identified on the common portal based on data analysis and risk parameters for carrying out physical verification. So in that case, physical verification will be made, and this is proposed only for the state of Gujarat. Point number 4, cancellation of registration. So person who is required to deduct TDS or collect TCS, they can also request for cancellation of registration, but whereas in the current scheme it is not available, only the proper officer could cancel. So this is the amendment with regard to registration. Next is input tax credit. So rule 37A inserted. So specific rule. So earlier what happened was only matching of the PR, that is purchase register, with GSTR 2B was required. Whether the corresponding supplier filed the return, furnished return under 3B or not, is not required to be verified by the recipient. So corresponding supplier has to file the GST 3B or not. That we need not verify in the current scheme. But proposed scheme, matching of PR with 2B every month, we have to match our purchase register with GSTR 2B. So whatever is matching, only we can take the credit. Apart from that, we should also verify that whether our suppliers have filed GSTR 3B maximum by 30th September from following the end of the financial year, to which the ITC in respect of the invoice or debit note has been availed. So what happens is, say for example, February 2022 invoice, December 2022 invoice, we are taking the credit. So maximum the supplier should have filed the GSTR 3B maximum by 30th September following the end of the financial year. So end of the financial year is 2023, March 2023. From that end, September, 30th September. So 30th September 2023, maximum by that time, he should have filed the GSTR 3B. If he has not filed, what is the consequence? So consequence of non-furnishing of GSTR 3B by corresponding supplier. So where GSTR 3B pertaining to ITC in respect of the invoice or debit note has not been furnished by the corresponding supplier till the 30th day of September following the end of the financial year, in which ITC in respect of invoice or debit note has been availed, then what will happen is the recipient, whoever has availed the ITC, he has to reverse that ITC. The ITC shall be reversed by the said registered person while furnishing a return in form GSTR 3B on or before the 30th day of November from the end of the financial year. So December 2022 credit, we have to maximum reverse it by 30th day of November from the end of the financial year. So end of the financial year is 31st March 2023. So 30th November 2023, maximum by that time we have to reverse the credit. So this is a very stringent provision. So this is because people would have filed GSTR 1, but they will not make the payment. In GSTR 1, we are not making the payment. We are only filing. But in GSTR 3B, we have to make the payment and file the return. So many persons, what happens? They'll file GSTR 1, they will not file 3B. So in order to mitigate this hardship, government has brought about this specific rule stating that the recipient should also check whether the corresponding supplier has filed GSTR 3B or not. If he has not filed, then government has not received the payment. So we will also not be able to take the credit. So this has increased the compliance burden for the recipients. Why? Because now we have to ask for the GSTR 3B from all our suppliers to check whether they have filed or not. We have to check whether our invoice has been taken into consideration. That will be there in GSTR 1, and whether they have made the payment in 3B or not, we have to check. So this is with regard to ITC proviso. So what is the exception? Wherever the ITC is not reversed, suppose our supplier has not filed GSTR 3B, then we have to reverse the credit maximum by 30th November from the end of the financial year. If the recipient has not reversed the credit within the 30th day, on or before 30th day of November following the end of the financial year, then the amount has to be paid by that recipient along with interest under section 30, under section 50. So section 50 subsection 1 is talking about interest at the rate of 18%. And 50 subsection 3 is we have wrongly availed and utilized, that is 24%. Now the notification has not clarified whether it is 18% or 24%. In my opinion, it is going to be 18%, because it is not that credit is wrongly availed. So wrong credit is different, whereas we are taking the credit only which is matched with 2B. So this is not wrongly availed. So in my opinion, it is going to be 18%. Let us wait for the clarification. There will be a circular which will clarify whether it is going to be 18% or 24%. So if we have not reversed the credit maximum by 30th November, following the end of the financial year, during which the ITC is availed, then that amount has to be payable by the said person along with interest under section 50. Proviso 2. Suppose the said corresponding supplier furnishes the return subsequently in GSTR 3B. So subsequently in form GSTR 3B, our supplier has furnished the return, then we can re-avail the credit in the return. And for re-availment of credit, there is no time limit. So which we already know as per section 16 subsection 4, there is a time limit to take the credit. Within 30th day of November, we have to take the credit. We have to avail the credit. But for re-availment, there is no time limit. So when the supplier subsequently furnishes the return, we can re-avail the credit. Whatever credit was reversed by us, we can re-avail the credit. So this is with regard to input tax credit. So what is the provision with regard to input tax credit? First thing is matching of the purchase register with 2B, that is already there. Second thing is we have to verify whether our corresponding suppliers have filed the GSTR 3B maximum by 30th September following the end of the financial year, in which the ITC in respect of invoice or debit note has been availed by the recipient. In case the supplier has not furnished the return maximum by 30th September following the end of the financial year, the recipient has to reverse the ITC which is availed maximum by 30th November following the end of the financial year. Suppose what is the consequence if the recipient does not reverse the credit? They have to pay back the amount whatever is taken along with interest at the rate of 18% or 28%, which has to be clarified. And in case the supplier subsequently furnishes the return, then the recipient can re-avail the credit whatever was reversed. This is with regard to input tax credit. Next is payment. Rule 87 sub-rule 8 proviso has been inserted. So wherever bank fails to communicate the challan identification number, so through payment 06, we will generate a challan to make the payment. So in that, challan identification will be generated. So wherever the bank fails to communicate the details of challan identification number in the common portal, then the electronic cash ledger will be updated on the basis of e-scroll of the Reserve Bank of India in case where the details of e-scroll are in conformity with the details in challan. So based on the e-scroll of the Reserve Bank of India, the details will be updated in challan generated in form GST payment 06 on the common portal. Next, rule 88C has been inserted. So what is this rule 88C? Manner of dealing with difference in liability reported in the statement of outward supplies and that reported in return. So when this rule will apply, when tax payable as per GSTR 1 is greater than the tax payable as per GSTR 3B by such amount and such percentage as may be recommended. So until now it is not recommended. So whatever percentage or whatever amount is recommended by the council, then we have to check if it is exceeding or not. So what happens is whatever tax we are reporting in GSTR 1, same thing has to be reported in GSTR 3B. So in case it is not reported correctly, say whatever tax reported in GSTR 1 is higher than what is reported in 3B, then what will happen? The registered person will be intimated for the difference. In Part A of Form GST, DRC 1B, electronically on the common portal, and the copy of that intimation shall also be sent to his email address provided on the common portal, and it will highlight the difference, and he has to make the payment of differential tax liability along with interest at the rate of 18% through Form GST DRC 3, or what he has to do is he has to explain the reasons for the difference in tax payable on the common portal within a period of 7 days. So what they are trying to tell is, in case the tax payable as per GSTR 1 is exceeding the tax payable as per GSTR 3B, then the differential amount will be intimated to the taxpayer in Form GST DRC 1B in Part A on the common portal, and it will also be sent to the email address of the registered person, which is provided on the GST portal, highlighting the difference. And what the registered person will have to do, he has to make the payment of differential tax liability along with interest at the rate of 18% through Form GST DRC 3, or he has to explain the reasons for the differential tax liability on the common portal within a period of 7 days. What are the steps to be undertaken by the registered person? So upon receipt of the intimation, what he has to do? He has to make the payment of differential tax liability as specified in Part A of Form GST DRC 1B, either fully or partially, along with interest at the rate of 18% through Form GST DRC 3, and he has to furnish the details in Part B of DRC 1B electronically on the common portal. Or what he has to do? He has to furnish a reply electronically on the common portal incorporating reasons in respect of that part of the differential tax liability which has been remaining unpaid, if any, in Form GST DRC 1B in Part B within a period of 7 days. Now, consequence. What is the consequence in case he does not make the payment, or he does not furnish the reply, or whatever reason he has furnished is not acceptable? So consequence of non-payment or non-furnishing of reply or reason furnished by the registered person to whom the intimation is sent is not acceptable. So where the amount specified in the intimation remains unpaid within a period of 7 days, and where no explanation or reason is furnished by the registered person in default, or where the explanation or reason furnished by the registered person is not found to be acceptable by the proper officer, then the said person amount shall be recovered in accordance with provisions of Section 79, that is recovery of tax. So through that section, they will recover the taxes. So this is with regard to the payment. So first point is, in case the challan identification number is not communicated, then the electronic cash ledger shall be updated on the basis of e-scroll of the RBI, Reserve Bank of India, in case where the e-scroll are in conformity with the details in challan generated in Form GST payment 6. And Rule 88C inserted. What is that Rule 88C? It is nothing but the tax payable as per GSTR 1 is greater than tax payable as per GSTR 3B. In case if it is greater by such amount and percentage which is specified by the council, then it will be intimated to the registered person in Form GST DRC 1B in Part A, and they'll be asked to make the payment of the differential tax liability in Form GST DRC 3, or the registered person has to explain the aforesaid difference in tax payable on the common portal within a period of 7 days. Now, if they don't reply, or whatever reply furnished is not satisfactory, is not acceptable, or if they have not paid the differential tax liability, then the amount will be recovered in accordance with the provisions of section 79, that is recovery of taxes. Returns, rule 59 sub-rule 6 clause D has been inserted. So what is this? A registered person to whom the intimation has been issued on the common portal under the provisions of rule 88C clause subsection 1, sub-rule 1, in respect of a tax period, he shall not be allowed to furnish the details of outward supplies of goods or services or both under section 37 in form GST R1 or using IFF for a subsequent tax period, unless he has either deposited the amount specified in the intimation or he has furnished the reply explaining the reasons for any amount as required under the provisions of 88C. So that means whenever you get an intimation, you have to either make the payment of differential tax liability or you have to explain the reasons for the difference. If you have not done both, or if the reason is also not acceptable, then you will not be allowed to furnish your GSTR 1 for the subsequent tax period unless and until you have filed a valid intimation and it has been accepted, or you have paid the differential tax liability. So this is with regard to returns. Tax invoice, debit notes and credit notes. Rule 46 clause F proviso has been inserted, where any taxable service is supplied by or through an electronic commerce operator or by a supplier of OIDAR service, online information database access retrieval service, to a recipient who is unregistered, irrespective of the value of supply. So whenever a taxable service is provided through an e-commerce operator or it is provided by a supplier of online information database access retrieval service to a person who is unregistered, irrespective of the value of supply, the tax invoice which is issued by the registered person shall contain the name and address of the recipient along with the PIN code of the recipient, and the name of the state and the said address shall be deemed to be the address and record of the recipient. So you have to mention the name, address along with the PIN code and name of the state should also be mentioned in the tax invoice, even if the recipient is unregistered. Earlier, what happened was the name and address of the recipient was required to be mentioned in the tax invoice only in case the value of supply is less than 50,000 and only if the recipient is requesting for the same. But now, irrespective of the value of supply and irrespective of whether the recipient requests for the same or not, the supplier has to mention the name and address of the recipient along with the PIN code and name of the state. Rule 46A proviso inserted. A single invoice cum bill of supply shall contain the particulars as specified under Rule 46 or 54 as the case may be, and Rule 49. So it is whenever you are supplying both taxable as well as exempted goods or services, then you have to issue a invoice cum bill of supply. Then it has to contain the details specified under Rule 46 or Rule 54. So apart from that, in refund, in Rule 89 sub-rule 2, so what happened is there is a statement which is inserted, statement 8. Statement containing the details of invoices like number, date, value, tax paid, and details of payment in respect of which refund is being claimed, along with the copy of invoices, proof of making such payment to the supplier, the copy of agreement or registered agreement or contract as cancellation as applicable entered with the supplier for supply of service, the letter issued by the supplier for cancellation or termination of agreement or contract for supply of service, details of payment received from the supplier against cancellation or termination of the agreement along with proof thereof in case where the refund is claimed by the unregistered person where the agreement or contract for supply of service has been cancelled or terminated. So this is for the unregistered persons who have entered into a contract with a supplier for construction of building, and later on the contract is terminated. So what happens when you pay the advance? The tax amount will be paid by the builder to the government. So when you are receiving the refund, tax amount will be deducted, remaining only you will get. So the unregistered buyers are losing the tax amount. So they can apply for refund using this. So for that, all these documents are required. And a certificate issued by the supplier to the effect that he has paid the tax in respect of the invoices on which refund is being claimed by the applicant, that he has not adjusted the tax amount involved in these invoices against his tax liability by issuing a credit note. So that means the supplier should not have issued a credit note and he should not have adjusted the taxes. And also he has not claimed or will not claim refund of the amount of tax involved in respect of these invoices in case where the refund is claimed by the unregistered person, where the agreement or contract for supply of service has been cancelled or terminated. So that means the time limit for issuing the credit note should also be expired. Suppose if the builder has issued the credit note, then means he can adjust the tax payable. So if he has adjusted the tax payable, then this refund cannot be applied. So he should not have adjusted the tax payable. He should not have issued the credit note. Proviso, provided that certificate is not required to be furnished in cases where refund is claimed by the unregistered person who has borne the incident of tax. So suppose if the unregistered person has borne the incidence of tax, then the certificate is not required. Now let us see the circular. Circular 188 bar 2022, 20 bar 2022, dated 27th December 2022. Manner of filing an information application for refund by unregistered person. Now, why this circular? The circular is issued on account of issues faced by unregistered buyers of building and issues faced by the insured in case of long-term insurance policies. So what are the issues faced by unregistered buyers? Unregistered buyers who has entered into an agreement or contract with the builder for supply of services for construction of flat or building, etc., and had paid the amount towards consideration for such service either fully or partially along with applicable tax. So the unregistered buyers has paid the amount along with taxes, had to get the said contract or agreement cancelled subsequently due to non-completion or delay in construction activity in time or any other reasons. So the contract is terminated. Period for issuance of credit note or account of cancellation of in service under the provisions of section 34 of the CGST Act may have already been expired by that time. In such cases, the supplier may refund the amount to the buyer after deducting the amount of tax. So that means the tax amount is forgone by the buyer. So out of 1 lakh, so 12%, say 12% is the tax. So 1,12,000 you would have paid. So 12,000 they'll deduct and remaining 1 lakh only they will refund you. So you are losing that 12,000. So for that you have to apply for refund. So this issue is faced by the recipient. So that's why the circular has been issued. One more issue is insured. The issue is faced by insured in case of long-term insurance policies. So where the premium is paid upfront along with the applicable GST and the policy is subsequently required to be terminated prematurely due to some reasons. In some cases, the time period for issuing credit note under the provisions of section 34 of the CGST Act may have already been expired and therefore the insurance companies may refund the amount net of GST. So proportionate premium net of GST. So for that, you have to apply for the refund of the taxes paid. So what is section 54 subsection 1? Any person can claim refund of tax and interest, if any, paid on such tax or any other amount paid by him by making an application before the expiry of 2 years from the relevant date in such form and manner as may be prescribed. So within 2 years, you have to apply for refund. 54 subsection 8 clause E. In terms of section 54 subsection 8 clause E, in case where the unregistered person has borne the incidence of tax and has not passed on the same to any other person. So he has borne the incidence of tax and has not passed on to any other person. the said refund shall be paid to him instead of being credited to the consumer welfare fund. So what is a new functionality in common portal? A new functionality has been made available on the common portal, which allows the unregistered person to take a temporary registration and apply for refund under the category refund for unregistered person. So rule 89 sub rule 2 amended by notification number 26/2022 dated central tax dated 26th December 2022. So rule 89 sub rule 2 has been amended and statement 8 has been inserted in form GST RFD 1 by notification number 26/2022 central tax dated 26th December 2022 to provide for the documents which are required to be furnished along with the application for refund by the unregistered person and the statement to be uploaded along with the refund application. So what are all the documents which we saw in the notification? Statement containing the details of invoices like number, date, value, tax paid, details of payment in respect of which refund is being claimed, along with copy of the invoices, proof of making the payment to the supplier like a bank statement, copy of agreement or registered agreement or contract as applicable, which is entered with the supplier of the service, the letter issued by the supplier for cancellation or termination of agreement or contract for supply of service, then details of payment received from the supplier against the cancellation or termination of the agreement along with the proof thereof in case where the refund is claimed by the unregistered person where the agreement or contract or supply of service has been cancelled or terminated. A certificate issued by the supplier to the effect that he has paid the tax in respect of invoices on which a refund is being claimed by the applicant. So supplier has to issue a certificate to the recipient that he has paid the taxes and that he has not adjusted the tax amount involved in these invoices against his tax liability by issuing a credit note. So he has not issued a credit note, and also that he has not claimed and he will not claim the refund of the amount of tax involved in respect of these invoices in a case where the refund is claimed by an unregistered person where the agreement or contract for supply of service has been cancelled or terminated. Clarification by the circular. So what is the circular clarifying? So unregistered person, whoever wants to file an application for refund under section 54 subsection 1 of CGST Act in case where the contract or agreement for supply of service of construction of flat or building has been cancelled or where long-term insurance policy has been terminated, he shall obtain a temporary registration. So the unregistered person can obtain a temporary registration on the common portal using the permanent account number. While doing so, the unregistered person shall select the same state or union territory where his or her supplier in respect of whose invoice for which refund is to be claimed is registered. So where the supplier is registered, that state has to be selected by the unregistered person. Thereafter, then the unregistered person would be required to undergo Aadhaar authentication in terms of provisions of Rule 10B of the CGST rules. Further, the unregistered person would be required to enter his bank account details. So he has to enter his bank account details in which he seeks to obtain the refund of the amount claimed. So because refund will be credited to the bank account of the unregistered person, so he has to enter his bank account details. The applicant shall provide the details of the bank account which is in his name and has been obtained in his PAN number. Application for refund. So application for refund shall be filed in Form GST RFD 1 on the common portal under the category refund for unregistered person. And the applicant shall upload statement 8 in PDF format. And all the requisite documents as per provisions of 89 sub rule 2 will apply. The refund amount claimed shall not exceed the total amount of tax declared on the invoices in which the refund is being claimed. So it shall not exceed the tax amount which is declared on the invoice. Further, the applicant should also upload a certificate issued by the supplier that the supplier has not adjusted the tax amount. The applicant shall also upload any other document to support his claim that he has paid and borne the incidence of tax and that the said amount is refundable to him, that is to the unregistered person. So what is statement 8? Statement 8 will be like this. This is what is statement 8. Refund for unregistered persons. It will contain the serial number, GST number of the supplier, invoice details, type of documents, whether it is invoice or debit note, number, date of invoice, taxable value, tax paid, whether it is going to be IGST, CGST, SGST or cess, and details of payment of invoice value, the date, amount, and details of payment received against the cancellation. So after cancellation, what is the amount you received and what is the date of cancellation and refund amount which you are claiming. So this is what is statement 8. Separate application for refund in respect of invoices issued by different suppliers. So you have to make a separate application for refund in respect of invoices issued by different suppliers. Further, where the supplier in respect of whose invoices refund is to be claimed are registered in different state or union territory, then the applicant has to obtain temporary registration in respect of each of the concerned state or union territory where the said supplier are registered. Refund to be claimed only in case time period for issuance of credit note has been expired. So where the time period for issuance of credit note has expired, then you cannot claim the refund. Sorry, then you can claim the refund. If it has not expired at the time of cancellation or termination of agreement or contract for supply of service, the concerned suppliers can issue credit note to the unregistered person. So in such cases, the supplier would be in a position to pay back the amount of tax collected by him from the unregistered person, and therefore there will not be any need for filing the refund, because the time limit has not expired means he can issue a credit note. So when credit note is issued, what will happen? He can adjust the taxes. So he will be in a position to pay back the amount of tax collected also, because he has adjusted the tax. So he can pay back the tax collected by him from the unregistered person, and there will not be any need for filing the application for refund by the unregistered person. Accordingly, refund claim can be filed by the unregistered person only in those cases where at the time of cancellation or termination of agreement or contract for supply of service, the time period for issuance of credit note under section 34 of the CGST Act has already expired. Relevant date for filing of refund. So date of issuance of letter of cancellation of the contract or agreement for supply by the supplier. So that means the cancellation, the letter of cancellation, that date will be taken as a relevant date. So within 2 years from that date, you have to apply for refund. Minimum refund amount, no refund shall be paid to the applicant if the amount is less than 1,000 rupees. And therefore, no refund shall be claimed if the amount is less than 1,000 rupees. Process of refund claim by proper officer. So the proper officer shall process the refund claim filed by the unregistered person in a manner similar to RFD1 claims. The proper officer, what he will do is he will scrutinize whatever application is filed by the unregistered person with regard to completeness, eligibility of the refund claim to his satisfaction, and he shall issue a refund sanction order in form GST RFD 6 accordingly. The proper officer shall also upload a detailed speaking order along with the refund sanction order in form GST RFD 6. Proportionate refund of tax. In cases where the amount paid by the supplier to the unregistered person on cancellation or termination of agreement or contract for supply of services is less than amount paid by the unregistered person to the supplier. So whatever amount is paid back by the supplier to the unregistered person is less than the amount which is paid by the unregistered person to the supplier, then only the proportionate amount of tax, say for example 1 lakh you paid, so certain portion of service is completed, so remaining say 80,000 you are getting. So proportionate tax 12,000 is the entire tax, so proportionate to 80,000 only you will get the refund. So only the proportionate amount of tax involved in such amount shall be refunded to the unregistered person. So this is what is with regard to the circular. So this is circular 188/2022. Next circular which we are going to see is circular number 186. No claim bonus. Issues which are discussed in this circular are taxability of no claim bonus offered by insurance companies and applicability of e-invoicing with regard to an entity. So what are the other clarifications sought in this circular? Whether the deduction on account of no claim bonus allowed by the insurance company from the insurance premium payable by the insured can be considered as consideration for the supply provided by the insured to the insurance company for agreeing to the obligation to refrain from the act of lodging insurance claim during the previous year. So this no claim bonus, which is allowed by the insurance company from the insurance premium payable, whether it can be treated as consideration for the supply provided by the insured to the insurance company. So let us see what is the clarification which is given. The customer or the insured procures insurance policy to indemnify himself from any loss or injury as per the terms of policy and is not under the contractual obligation not to claim the insurance claim during any period covered under the policy in lieu of no claim bonus. So that is therefore clarified that there is no supply which is provided by the insured to the insurance company in form of agreeing to the obligation to refrain from the act of lodging insurance claim during the previous years, and no claim bonus cannot be considered as a consideration for any supply which is provided by the insured to the insurance company. So that cannot be considered as a consideration for any supply insured provided by the insured to the insurance company. So it is no supply, it is not a supply, cannot be considered as a consideration. Whether no claim bonus provided by the insurance company to the insured can be considered as an admissible discount for the purpose of determination of value of supply of insurance service provided by the insurance company to the insured. So as per section 15 subsection 3 clause A of the CGST Act, value of supply shall not include any discount. So it will not include any discount which is given before or at the time of supply if such discount has been already recorded, duly recorded in the invoice in respect of such supply. So therefore, the insurance companies make the disclosure of the fact of availability of discount in form of no claim bonus, which is subject to certain conditions to the insured in the insurance policy document itself. And they also provide the details of the no claim bonus in the invoices also. The pre-disclosure of no claim bonus amount in the policy document and specific mention of the discount in form of no claim bonus in the invoice, it is in consonance with the conditions which are laid down for the deduction of discount from the value of supply under the section 15 subsection 3 clause A of the CGST Act. So it is therefore clarified that no claim bonus is a permissible deduction. It is allowed, that deduction is allowed. You can deduct under section 15 subsection 3 clause A of the CGST Act for the purpose of calculation of such value of supply of the insurance service provided by the insurance company to the insured. Accordingly, where the deduction on account of no claim bonus is provided in the invoice issued by the insurer to the insured, GST shall be leviable on actual insurance premium account payable by the policyholders to the insurer after deduction of no claim bonus mentioned on the invoice. So what happens is the deduction can be claimed by the insurer and GST shall be leviable on the actual insurance premium amount payable by the policyholder to the insurer after deduction of no claim bonus. Next, clarification on applicability of E-invoicing with regard to an entity. So we all know IRN has to be generated, E-invoice has to be generated. So now persons whose turnover is not exceeding, like 10 crores, they also have to come under this E-invoice category where they have to generate IRN. Now there are certain exemptions for this. Certain parties are exempted from generating E-invoice. So whether exemption from mandatory generation of E-invoices in terms of notification 13/2020, central tax dated 21st March 2020 as amended is available only in respect of certain supplies made by the entity. So what they are clarifying is like this goods transport agencies, banking company, all these persons, they need not generate E-invoice. So what they are trying to clarify, whether it is applicable to the entity as a whole or is it restricted to only certain supplies. So the circular clarifies that the said exemption from generation of E-invoice is applicable for the entity as a whole and it is not restricted only for the certain supplies. or nature of supplies being made by the same entity. So this restriction, I mean, this e-invoicing, this exemption is applicable for the entity as a whole. So with this, I complete my session. So any doubts or any questions we can take up.